It's no secret that FIFA 22 is coming to an end, but despite this I've still had a couple of different Discord messages where people have asked me for rebuild suggestions. So in today's video I'm giving you 7 of my favourite ones that you can either do as your final FIFA 22 rebuild or your first FIFA 23 rebuild. We're going to be starting off with a fairly popular choice and probably one that you would expect to be in a video like this. Everton have spent £450 million on the team over the past 5 years, yet somehow they find themselves facing a possible relegation to the Championship. With this much money to spend and the history that Everton have, there's a big fan base, a big club, a big stadium, relegation really could be fatal. You can see them going the same way as someone like Derby County or Sunderland in the future. And that's why today I'm recommending you rebuild Everton on your FIFA career mode. I'll be telling you a little bit about what went wrong in a second, but really I think it would be a super fun save with the amount of money they have to spend, some of the youth players they already have, and just the general vibe of playing as Everton. It's going to be a fun save no matter what you do. If you look at their squad, you can see they've signed a couple of big name players this summer. You've got people like Conor Coady, James Tarkowski and new signing Amadou Onana who have all come in, and they're all definitely Premier League standard or better. But what you're going to be doing is starting off with the real FIFA 22 squads, so you'll still have the likes of Richarlison at your club. He's worth quite a lot, so I would recommend you probably sell him if you're interested in doing a rebuild. Sell him for about 45 to 50 million pounds, and combine this with the generated transfer budget of 50, and you'll have 100 million pounds to fully rebuild a FIFA squad in the Premier League. From here, you can try and emulate real life, maybe sign Conor Coady, Ruben Vinagre, Dwight McNeil, James Tarkowski and Amadou Onana, but this will probably use up around half of your 100 million pounds. If you do this, this will give you about £50 million left to spend, and there's 2 different areas I recommend you have a look at. With Calvert-Lewin being fairly prone to injuries and really not that great on FIFA, it's definitely worth spending a big chunk of your £50 million on another first-class striker, and probably a winger as well. Don't look past recalling Moise Kean for a very cheap option if you need a fairly average striker to back up Calvert-Lewin, but if you want someone who's a bit more of a pacey direct option, who's more of a big name first choice striker, why don't you have a look at maybe trying to rescue Anthony Martial from his hell at Manchester United. His stats show he can still be an effective Premier League striker as long as you're not playing a pressing style of football. He has very low stamina and really poor interception stats, but despite that he's got the pace, the finishing and the off the ball stats that mean he can definitely bag at least 15 to 20 goals a season on FIFA 22 career mode. The second place I recommend you have a look at was the wingers, and for this Marcus Edwards would be a solid choice from Sporting Lisbon if you can survive the first window without him, because he has only just joined the club, he won't move until January. You could also look at former Liverpool winger Ryan Kent. If you're playing on the effective counter-attack, pace is definitely your objective, and Ryan Kent has an absolute ton of this. Dwight McNeil is also an option if you want to go realistic. They did sign him in real life and he's probably better if you're playing more of a patient build-up possession style of football, but there are options out there and I really do recommend you look at Edwards, Kent and McNeil. From here you'll have a decent Everton squad in the Premier League. You'll probably definitely be able to avoid relegation. You'll probably be somewhere between 10th and 7th in the league if I had to guess with a squad of this quality, which is borderline playing in the Conference League, which would be another fun adventure. Even David Moyes, one of the most successful recent managers of Everton, only got them in the Champions League once and they didn't even make it through to the group stage I believe, so that should definitely be your objective. Try and get Everton into the Champions League, at least to the group stages. The second team on this list is going to be Fiorentina. They're a similar kind of team, but based in Italy, of course. They're known as La Viola, or the Violets, thanks to the colour of their kits, and they're one of the most successful Italian teams ever. They've got 2 Serie A titles, they've won the Italian Cup 6 times, and they were even the Champions League runner-up in 1957. They're one of the 7 sisters of Italian football, and they definitely peaked in the late 90s. They had 2 of the best players of all time in their squad at the same time, Roberto Baggio and Gabriel Batistuta. They're a bit underrated to modern football fans, but these 2 up front was absolutely lethal. Baggio dropped off, Batistuta got in behind and absolutely beamed some shots in the back of the net. The rest of the squad was also names you probably still know: Brian Laudrup, Stefan Effenberg, Rui Costa, Federico Chiesa's dad, Enrico Chiesa, Luca Toni was there, and Rui Costa has also played for Fiorentina. Why am I telling you all this? Well, it's because you're going to be trying to bring Fiorentina back to where they belong. So the general Fiorentina way of playing career mode would be signing a strong core of Italian and Argentinian players. This is fairly easy. In fact, there's quite a lot of Argentinian players out there with Italian heritage. So you've got a good selection of players here, and really most of your squad should be Italian, with maybe 4 to 5 different Argentinian players. You might be wondering why Argentinian players are so wanted at Fiorentina. Well, even Diego Maradona himself claimed that Gabriel Batistuta was the best striker that had ever graced the face of the earth. It's a little bit of a disrespect that he isn't an icon on Ultimate Team, because this guy had powerful play, he was absolutely lethal in the box, and this made him feared in his career. He played a little bit like Lewandowski. He didn't rely on absolute supreme pace, but if you can get a player like this through your youth academy from Argentina, he's definitely worthy of being Batistuta's heir. In 9 years in Florence, Batistuta got almost a religious adulation from the Curva Fiesole, and he's in the top 10 all-time leading scorers in Serie A history, with 168 goals in 270 games for Fiorentina. So that's 2 goals you can try and get to. Get a youth player from Argentina and score 175 goals in less than 300 games, and you've finally got a player better than Batistuta to Fiorentina. So with the video about to end, I'll just quickly run through 5 different ideas for the rest of the rebuilds in this video. So Sunderland are a bit of a fallen giant. In real life, they've been promoted from League 1 to the Championship. Of course, on FIFA, they have a real stadium, they have a good budget for Championship level, and they can definitely fully rebuild with that amount of money. They've also got quite a few good young youth players. I know the fact that Chelsea and Man City squads are so big on FIFA means that some of these players are actually on loan in real life, but on FIFA, they've been given them on permanent deals. This means you've got some very good young talent coming through at Sunderland right now on FIFA that probably isn't there in real life anymore. Because of this, the rebuild will be fun, trying to get them back up to the Premier League, where of course they spent so many years since the year 2000. Similarly, West Ham would be another good choice. They've got a high average age in their squad, they've got a decent budget and a really big stadium, but what they do have is a few very good Premier League level players. Thomas Soucek and Declan Rice are both very good in midfield. They've recently signed Skamaka in real life, so you can try and sign him on your career mode, and you've got a lethal striker finally to replace Antonio. And I just think in general West Ham are an interesting team. They have the bubbles at the start of every match, they've got a really nice stadium, and they're in the Premier League. I really do rate that idea. Next up isn't a club, but it's actually an entire league. The Turkish League is full of clubs with big names, old squads, and large budgets, especially for the sort of level the Turkish League is at. This means you can sign basically an entire new team of younger players, and you'll be able to dominate the league for years to come. I think basically any team in the Turkish League is eligible for a rebuild, but why not go for one of the really big ones, the Besiktas, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, that level team in the league, because they're all really good and they haven't actually won the league for the past couple of seasons. Next up is 2 leagues that are actually leaving FIFA, unfortunately, so this is the last chance you'll have to rebuild any teams in Mexico or Japan. Why not check them out before they leave the game? And I think, you know, you've got teams like Vissel Kobe in there, you've got America in Mexico. They're both very good squads and they both have very unique kits. They've got some interesting players, and definitely look into their histories because, again, very unique kind of clubs. And then finally, we've got Granada in La Liga. I recommend them again. This is one I recommended last year because they had a really high average age, but it's come down a little bit, but they still do have around 6 players over the age of 31 in their starting 11. They're in need of a total rebuild from start to back with all their young players that they're outside the squad. They do have a couple. They've got people like Luis Suarez, the young one from South America. They just need a general total rebuild, and I think Granada would be a really fun save if you need to do one on FIFA 22 before it ends. But if you've got any suggestions, make sure you leave them in the comments below. I love to read them. Message them on Discord as well. We've got a save suggestion channel on our Discord where it's got a ton of ideas. So if you don't like any of these, why not check that out by clicking on the link in the description below. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any FIFA 23 content coming soon, and I'll see you all very soon for another video. Thank you and goodbye.